Imagine a space beyond time. Here, the rustling of ancient banyan leaves mingles with the quiet hum of a quantum laboratory. In this realm, Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, sits in deep conversation with the rishis, the forest seers who composed the Upanishads thousands of years ago. They do not speak of separate worlds, one of matter and one of spirit. Instead, they discuss a single unified reality. Their dialogue explores the very fabric of existence, weaving together the threads of scientific law and mystical insight. The conversation is not a debate between opposing views. It is a harmonious exploration of a shared truth, discovered through different methods, yet pointing toward the same profound conclusion. The sages share their verses, speaking of Brahman, the ultimate indivisible reality from which all things emerge. Planck listens, nodding in recognition. He does not hear superstition, but a poetic description of what his own equations suggested. He, in turn, explains his revolutionary discovery, that at the subatomic level, the solid world dissolves into waves of probability. He speaks of a force, a conscious and intelligent mind, that must be assumed as the matrix of all matter. The rishis smile, for they have always known this. They called it chit, or pure consciousness. This meeting of minds reveals that the chasm between science and spirituality is perhaps an illusion, a misunderstanding born from language and historical context. The core of their discussion revolves around a fundamental question. What is the ground of being? Is it the tangible matter we can measure and weigh, or is it something more subtle, more foundational? The rishis point inward, to the silent observer within, the Atman. Planck points to his mathematical formulations, which show that the observer is not separate from the observed. The act of measurement influences reality. In this shared understanding, the universe ceases to be a cold mechanical clockwork. It becomes a living, breathing, conscious entity. The particles dancing in a cloud chamber and the meditator's breath rising and falling are seen as expressions of the same underlying principle. Their dialogue sets the stage for a deeper synthesis. It invites us to look beyond the apparent contradictions of our modern world. We are often taught to see science as the domain of the objective and spirituality as the realm of the subjective. Yet, at the frontiers of physics and the depths of contemplative practice, these distinctions begin to blur. Planck and the rishis guide us toward a more holistic vision. They show us that the laws governing the cosmos are not separate from the laws governing our own inner lives. The journey from the atom to the soul, from entropy to eternity, is not a journey across different territories, but a deeper dive into one unified field of existence. Max Planck did not set out to become a mystic. He was a physicist, a meticulous and rigorous scientist dedicated to understanding the material world. Yet his own research led him to a conclusion that resonated deeply with ancient spiritual traditions. When he peered into the heart of the atom, he found not solid bits of matter but something far more mysterious. He found that energy was not continuous but was emitted in discrete packets, or quanta. This discovery shattered the classical view of a predictable, deterministic universe. It opened the door to a new reality, one where consciousness seemed to play a fundamental role. He was forced to reconsider the very nature of matter itself. In his later years, Planck was unafraid to articulate the philosophical implications of his work. He famously stated, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." This was a radical departure from the prevailing scientific materialism of his time. For Planck, the tangible world we perceive, the chairs, the stars, the very cells of our bodies, was not the primary reality. It was an expression, a manifestation of a deeper, non-physical intelligence. He proposed that we cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness. The universe, in his view, was not an accidental collection of particles, but the product of a conscious and intelligent mind. This perspective changes everything. It suggests that the universe is not something we are merely in, but something we are intrinsically of. The consciousness that looks out through our eyes is not separate from the consciousness that orchestrates the dance of galaxies. Planck's insight bridges the objective world of scientific inquiry with the subjective world of inner experience. He saw no conflict between the two. In fact, he believed that both science and religion were engaged in a common struggle against skepticism and dogmatism, both searching for a higher, unifying principle. His work provided a scientific framework for what mystics had claimed for millennia. Therefore, the legacy of Max Planck is not just the quantum theory that powers our modern technology. It is a profound philosophical challenge to our understanding of existence. He invites us to see matter not as a solid, independent substance, but as a phenomenon arising from an invisible conscious source. The world is not made of stuff, but of information, of thought, of mind. This is not a denial of the physical world's reality, but a recontextualization of it. It is an affirmation that the ground of all being is not inert matter, but the vibrant, creative, and intelligent field of consciousness itself. Thousands of years before Planck formulated his quantum hypothesis, the sages of the Upanishads sat in meditation, exploring the universe through a different lens. Their laboratory was the silent landscape of their own awareness. Through deep introspection, they arrived at a conclusion remarkably similar to Planck's. They declared that the ultimate reality, the substrate of all existence, is Brahman. Brahman is described not as a deity or a person, but as infinite being, infinite consciousness, and infinite bliss, Satchitananda. It is the formless, changeless source from which all forms arise and to which they all return. It is the ocean, we are the waves. The central teaching of the Upanishads is encapsulated in the great proclamation Tat Tvam Asi, which translates to Thou art that. This is not a philosophical proposition to be debated. It is an experiential truth to be realized. It means that the individual self, the Atman, is not separate from the universal consciousness, Brahman. The spark of awareness within you is identical to the fire that illuminates the entire cosmos. The Upanishads teach that our perception of being a separate, isolated ego is a form of cosmic forgetfulness, a veil of ignorance called Maya. The spiritual journey is the process of lifting this veil and remembering our true nature. This ancient wisdom directly mirrors Planck's conclusion that consciousness is fundamental. Where Planck saw a conscious and intelligent mind as the matrix of matter, the Upanishads saw Brahman as the womb of all creation. The Chandogya Upanishad states, all this is Brahman. From it all things originate, into it they dissolve, and by it they are sustained. This is not a statement of faith, but a description of reality's operating principle. The material world, with all its diversity and complexity, is seen as a playful expression, Lila, of this one underlying consciousness. Just as gold can be shaped into countless ornaments, consciousness manifests as countless beings and objects, yet its essence remains unchanged. The Upanishadic vision, therefore, offers a profound spiritual context for the discoveries of modern physics. It provides a language of the soul, for what science describes with the language of mathematics. The idea that the observer influences the observed is, in Vedantic terms, self-evident. Of course, the consciousness of the seer affects the seen, because they are not two different things. They are two poles of a single reality. Tat Tvam Asi is the ultimate equation of unity, a declaration that the individual is not a fragment of the universe, but the entire universe experiencing itself in a particularized form. Science presents us with a seeming paradox. The second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, states that in a closed system, disorder always increases. Things fall apart. Stars burn out, mountains erode, and energy dissipates into a state of uniform, featureless equilibrium known as heat death. This is the universe's ultimate trajectory, a relentless march from order to chaos. It paints a picture of a cosmos winding down, its creative fire slowly turning to cold ash. It is the scientific expression of decay and mortality, a fundamental law that governs everything from a cooling cup of coffee to the fate of galaxies. Yet amidst this universal current flowing toward disorder, something miraculous happens. Life emerges. Against the tide of entropy, living organisms create pockets of extraordinary complexity and order. A single seed organizes soil, water, and sunlight into the intricate structure of a tree. A fertilized egg develops into a human being, a system of trillions of cells working in perfect harmony. Life does not defy the law of entropy. Rather, it ingeniously surfs its wave. It imports energy from its surroundings, like sunlight for plants or food for animals, and uses it to build and maintain its own internal order, while exporting a greater amount of disorder back into the environment. This cosmic dance between order and chaos is where the story of evolution unfolds. Entropy is not just a force of destruction. It is also a powerful driver of creation and adaptation. The very pressure of decay and competition forces life to become more innovative, more efficient, and more aware. It is the friction that polishes the stone. Without the constant threat of dissolution, there would be no impetus for growth, no need for the ingenuity that led from single-celled organisms to conscious beings capable of contemplating the universe itself. Life is a temporary island of order, a beautiful rebellion fought in the heart of a universe destined for chaos. This scientific narrative finds a powerful echo in spiritual traditions. The Upanishads also speak of a cyclical universe of creation and dissolution, a cosmic outbreath and inbreath of Brahman. The decay and death mandated by entropy are not seen as a final tragedy, but as an essential part of a larger rhythm. They represent the dissolution of form, which allows consciousness to return to its source before manifesting anew. Just as science sees entropy driving biological evolution, spirituality sees the decay of our physical forms and worldly attachments as a catalyst for spiritual evolution. It is the universe's way of reminding us not to cling to the temporary, but to seek the eternal. The law of entropy does not only operate in the external cosmos, it is also a powerful metaphor for our inner lives. Our minds, our relationships, and our ideals are also subject to disorder. Without conscious effort, our focus scatters, our good intentions fade, and our connections with others can fray. This is mental and spiritual entropy. It is the natural tendency to drift toward complacency, confusion, and disconnection. We all experience it as the slow decay of enthusiasm, the erosion of discipline, or the gradual cooling of a once passionate commitment. It is the gravity of the mundane pulling our aspirations back to earth. However, just as life creates order by drawing in energy, we can create inner coherence by drawing in awareness. The antidote to entropy is consciousness. The spiritual path in this light is the act of consciously resisting inner chaos. Meditation, self-reflection, and compassionate action are methods for building and sustaining inner order. They are the practices through which we infuse our lives with purpose and meaning, creating a vibrant inner world that stands as a testament to the power of awareness. You, the individual, are the meeting point where the universal law of entropy and the liberating power of consciousness converge. Your life is the laboratory. This perspective transforms our relationship with life's challenges. The decay, loss, and endings we inevitably face are no longer seen as mere misfortunes. They are invitations to awaken. When a relationship ends, a career fails, or our physical health declines, the structure of our life is shaken. This is entropy at work. Yet, it is precisely in this dissolution of form that an opportunity arises. We are forced to let go of what is transient and seek a deeper, more stable ground of being. These moments of breakdown can become moments of breakthrough, prompting us to ask, what remains when everything I identify with falls away? The answer, as both Planck and the Rishis suggest, is consciousness itself. Ultimately, The journey from entropy to eternity is not about escaping the physical world or its laws. It is about discovering the timeless reality that permeates it. It is about realizing that while our bodies and circumstances are subject to the relentless flow of time and decay, our essential nature is not. The consciousness that reads these words is a flicker of the same eternal flame that burned before the Big Bang and will burn after the last star has faded. By embracing the rhythm of change and choosing to cultivate awareness, we align ourselves with the creative force of the universe. We learn to find our stability not in resisting disorder, but in our capacity to continuously create meaning and order from within, turning the inevitability of decay into a dance of spiritual transformation.